spent in a miserable way.
U.S. News: Albanys blue wave wastes no time changing laws. What's next? With Democrats now in control in the legislature and the governor's office, the normal stranglehold on bills has loosened. What you need to know to start the day. When the Democrats wrested control of both legislative bodies in Albany, they wasted little time pushing through their reform agendas that had been languishing for years. It was as if the government, Andrew M. Cuomo. Here is a guide to keeping up with the swift changes in laws and what they mean. The new legislature first passed laws for residents. Early voting and, for 16 years, lawmakers had been proposing to ban conversion therapy working to change sexual orientation or gender identity for minors. On January the legislature later passed the GIDA, which prohibits discrimination based on gender identity or expression by employers, educational institutions, landlords or creditors. On January the 22nd, the 46th anniversary of the Supreme Court's landmark Roe v. Wade decision, the loosening of some restrictions on late-term abortion spurred a backlash among conservatives, Republicans and religious groups, some of whom were seeking to attack Democrats and rally voters toward the 2020 presidential election. The legislature voted for a standalone, approving state financial aid and scholarships for undocumented students. The vote came after other issues remained on the table. Immigrant Rights Act, the Child Victims Act had foundered for 13 years, held up by powerful private interest groups, some insurance companies and private schools, and some leaders of the Roman Catholic and Orthodox Jewish communities, many of whom had significant influence with Republican lawmakers. The act had not even, in 2019, with the Democrats in charge, every senator Republicans and Democrats alike voted for the bill, and it passed the Assembly 130-3. Now if the statute, for the first time in 6 years, the legislature of restrictive gun laws, even as it did so along party lines. The lawmakers voted. Gamblers wanting to bet the farm on all varieties of the big game got their hopes lifted when the State Gaming Commission gave its preliminary approval to a set of rules that would allow sports wagering in 4 upstate casinos. But that agreement it does not permit for online bets, which are allowed just across the Hudson River in New Jersey. The chairman of the prospects for legal recreational marijuana are somewhat hazy. Legislatively, finding much-needed money for New York City's subway system is one of the governor's biggest priorities. But his big ticket, Mr. Cuomo, a skillful tactician, is expected to use all kinds of carrots and sticks to get his way. But he is dealing with it. Advocates want to do away with cash bail. Guarantee fee. There is a lot of support among legislative leaders and Mr. Cuomo. On Thursday, Jesse M.C. Kinley contributed reporting.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. I get fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.